Welcome back to Behind the Counter Pharmacy and Beyond, the podcast where real stories meet real business lessons. I'm your host, Solomon Aboide, and today, this is the episode I've been waiting to share. If you own a pharmacy, this one's for you. And if you're thinking about becoming a pharmacy owner, this one's especially for you, because this is part one of a deep dive into what I call the pharmacy numbers game. And let me tell you, it's a game that's taking down some of the smartest, hardest working people that I know. Today, we're breaking open the NHS contract, not the theory of it, but the reality, the numbers, the traps, the financial truths that they never teach us in pharmacy school. Because if you don't understand how money flows in this industry, you'll find yourself working 60, 70, even 100 hours a week and still wondering why there's nothing left at the end of the month. And the hard truth is, you're not alone. There are thousands of pharmacies across the country in that exact same position. And trust me, I've been there too. But experience is a great teacher. And over the years, I've learned what works, what doesn't, and where most pharmacies go wrong. I only wish someone had shown me these things when I started out. And that is exactly why this podcast exists. And to be honest, it's why I now spend time helping other pharmacy owners behind the scenes. Because no one should have to figure this stuff out the hard way. If this episode helps even one person avoid the mistakes I made, I'll consider it a win. Last time on Behind the Counter, we dove into private services, how we turn them into a reliable stream of income, the wins, the mistakes, and the overlooked opportunities that could make real difference to your bottom line. But here's the truth. Private income is just one piece of the puzzle, because for most pharmacy contractors in the UK, the NHS is still the main breadwinner. And if you don't understand how NHS money actually flows, where it comes from, where it quietly disappears to, then all that private service also just wouldn't make a difference. It's just masking a deeper financial leak. Today, we're going deeper than ever before. We're talking clawbacks, category M, margin traps, and how the NHS contract really works in plain English. This is the episode I wish someone had given me in year one of starting my pharmacy. Because understanding your numbers isn't just good business, it is survival. And let me say this journey, it's going to challenge you. You'll realize you have to let go of certain habits. You need to take emotion out of some decisions. And sometimes you'll have to go back in order to go forward. And that's okay. That's part of the game. So if you ever find yourself wondering, why am I working this hard and still not seeing any money? You're in the right place today. If you missed the last episode, make sure you go back and listen. It's packed with insights you'll want in your toolbox. If you're enjoying this podcast so far, don't forget to hit follow or subscribe depending on where you're listening so you don't miss a new episode. And I'd love to hear from you. What's resonating? What could be better and what would you like to hear more of? Your input really matters and I appreciate every single one of you for being here. Thank you. I'll start with one of the biggest assumptions in pharmacy, and that is that the NHS pays pharmacies to dispense medicines. Technically, that is correct. But as many pharmacy owners will tell you, that's only scratching the surface. Community pharmacy in England is funded by a fixed national pot, around £2.6 billion per year currently. That funding is shared across roughly 11,500 community pharmacies in England. And here's what most people don't realize. That money isn't split equally. It's not guaranteed, and it doesn't increase just because demand does. Instead, your monthly NHS income depends on a few key things. The number of prescription items you dispense, the NHS services you provide, things like flu jabs and Pharmacy First, the reimbursement prices for those items at that particular time, and importantly, the deductions that are taken before you even receive your payment. Imagine this. England's population, as we know, continues to grow. More people need medication, more people use pharmacy services, right? But the pot stays the same, or in some years, it even shrinks. So what happens? The more that's claimed nationally, the thinner the slice each contractor receives. You're doing more work, serving more patients, but earning less for it. And you still have to order stock, pay your staff, run the building, keep your GPHC compliance in check, all on a moving financial target. Here's the part that shocks most new contractors. You don't get a fixed payment each month. You're paid based on the activity, and the value of that activity is constantly changing. Reimbursement rates can shift quarterly, monthly, sometimes with little or no warning at all. And you, the contractor, have zero control in those changes. I know that might sound overwhelming, but stay with me here. This isn't about scaring you away from pharmacy ownership. It's about helping you go into it with your eyes open and your strategy sharp. Because when you understand the game, you can play it. And if you play it well, pharmacy can still be a highly rewarding business. So let's demystify the language first. Here is a simple breakdown of the key terms you'll hear throughout this episode explained in plain English. Pharmacy contractor. This is you, the person or legal entity, sole trader, partnership, or limited company that holds the pharmacy contract. You're the one delivering the services. You're the one the NHS pays. You also carry the responsibility and the opportunity. NHS Community Pharmacy Contract. This is the national agreement between NHS England and community pharmacies. It outlines the services you're expected to provide, like dispensing, public health advice, repeat dispensing, and other services. It dictates how you're paid for each of those services. But here's the key: the contract works within that same fixed pot of money. So, more national activity doesn't mean more money, it means more sharing, literally. It's a controlled system, but one you can thrive in with the right tools and insights. Then we've got Category M. Category M is the NHS's way of adjusting reimbursement for certain generic medicines. Every few months, the prices get reviewed, and if they believe pharmacies have made too much margin, they lower what they pay. Yes, that's a thing. If they believe pharmacies have made too much margin, they lower what they pay. But the issue here is your wholesalers don't always follow suit, which means you can end up dispensing at a loss through no fault of your own at all. This is why pharmacy requires smart, informed purchasing and close margin tracking. Clawbacks. Clawback is a deduction, a percentage taken off your NHS payment every month. Currently, it's capped at around 11.5%. What this is designed to do is to recoup any excess profits the NHS thinks you've made on drug purchases. But the rate changes often and it's non negotiable. This is one that can quietly eat into your income if you're not watching it closely, but there are ways to forecast and plan around it. The drug tariff. This is the holy grail, the NHS price list. It's published monthly and tells you what medicines are reimbursable, what the current prices are for those medicines, and what professional fees you will earn per item that you dispense. If you don't check it regularly, you might be dispensing below cost without even realizing. But if you understand how it works, it can help you protect or even increase your profit margin. PPD statement. This is the short for Prescription Pricing Division Statement, and it's a monthly payment report from the NHS Business Services Authority. It tells you what you're being paid, what's been clawed back, any overpayments, underpayments, and adjustments. It's effectively your financial scorecard. And yes, most contractors glance over it. And in all honesty, I've come across a lot of pharmacy contractors that don't even understand the PPD statement. If you take the time to understand it, it becomes a powerful tool for decision making. And finally, advance payment. To help with cash flow, the NHS gives you an advance payment based on recent claims. It can be helpful, but it's not free money. It's effectively a loan against the future reimbursement. And when that reconciliation comes, you need to be ready because it can hit you like a ton of bricks if you're not. So there you have it, your survival glossary for the pharmacy numbers game. I know it sounds a lot, but I want you to hear this clearly. Pharmacy is still a business worth being in. You just need to understand the rules. And once you do, you can build a pharmacy that not only serves your community, but takes care of you too. You don't have to navigate this alone. That's why I share these episodes, and it's why I work with pharmacy owners through Doctor Consulting, because no one gave me this clarity when I started, and it nearly cost me everything. Now, before I move on, let me clear up something that even experienced contractors sometimes get confused about, and that's the difference between Category M and clawback. We've heard those definitions earlier on. Yes, they both reduce your income, but how they work and why they exist are two completely different things. Let me start with Category M. Category M is basically a way for the NHS to control how much profit pharmacies make on generic medicines. Every few months, they review the prices and adjust them up or down based on what they think pharmacies are paying to buy those drugs. So if they think pharmacies are making too much margin overall, they reduce the reimbursement price. What this means to a pharmacy is you could be buying amoxicillin, for example, at £2.40 a pack, and suddenly you're only going to get paid £2.10 back. You're dispensing at a loss. And often you don't or won't realize it until the money hits your bank account. Clawback is different. Clawback is a flat percentage deduction that comes straight off your total NHS payment every month. It's the NHS saying, we think you've made enough profit from discounts and wholesaler deals, and we're taking some of it back. This isn't linked to any specific drug, it's just a blanket deduction, and it can cost you thousands every single month without warning. Here is a simple way of differentiating between both. Category M affects what you get paid per item, while clawback affects what you take home at the end of the month. Both of them are out of your control. But once you understand how they work, you can start planning ahead and protecting your margins. Now, let's take a step back and really think about what this means. You can't set your own prices. You can't raise your fees when your costs go up. You can't negotiate margins with the NHS if the price of a drug increases. And at the same time, your reimbursement drops because of a Category M adjustment. You're not just earning less, you're dispensing at a loss. And let me say that again. You're literally handing over NHS prescriptions to patients and losing money every single time. And that's not a glitch in the system. That is the system. You're running a business, but the government tells you what you'll earn and when they'll pay you for it. And the pressure that creates is immense. It's really, really immense. And yet, despite all that, we continue to do it. We continue to serve. We continue to show up because at the heart of everything we do as pharmacy professionals is one thing: the patient. We're wired to care. We're trained to protect. We're driven to make sure that no one walks out of our pharmacy without the medicine they need, even if it costs us. That's why pharmacies up and down the country are still delivering medicines at a loss and still making up trays to vulnerable patients and offering a free delivery service. And that's exactly why this conversation matters so much. Because if we don't protect the business side of pharmacy, the patient side won't survive either. That's why knowing your numbers, tracking your margins, and making data driven decisions isn't optional anymore. It's essential. Let's break this down with a typical community pharmacy model. An average pharmacy dispensing 8,000 items each month might see figures like this: NHS item fee £62,000, NHS services fees £5,000, private services about £8,000. And just to be clear, this is well above the norm for most pharmacies. And you may get over the counter sales around £9,000 a month. And that varies massively depending on the location, footfall, and the community pharmacies located in. On paper, that looks like a solid business, but here's the reality behind those numbers. A pharmacy like this can lose up to £9,000 a month through category and margin adjustments, clawback applied by the NHS Business Services Authority, and unpredicted pricing changes that you don't control. That's literally £108,000 a year that's just gone. There's no negotiation, no warning, just gone. That's exactly how fragile this model can be if you're not up for it. But here's the thing I really want to stress. This doesn't mean pharmacy can't work. It just means you can't do it blind. You need to understand the numbers. You need to track where your money goes, not just where it comes from. And most importantly, you need someone in your corner who's done it before. Someone who's felt the pinch of clawback and still turned the pharmacy around. Someone who knows what to look for in your statements, your margins, and your workflow, and how to fix the leaks. Because the reality is, no one teaches this stuff, but thankfully, it can be learned. And once you learn it, you can build a pharmacy that doesn't just survive, but thrives. So don't be put off by the pressure, be equipped for it. Because if you get the numbers right, the impact you can have for your patients, your team, and your own family is truly incredible. So here's a story from my experience. In the early years, I remember opening up PPD statements and staring at the numbers like they were written in another language. I had no idea what I was looking at. I just looked at a section with the total amount that we're getting paid, but I never understood how that amount was arrived at. Prior to that, I'd worked as a pharmacy manager. I'd heard of the drug tariff, but I never really had to understand it. That was somebody else's job within that organization. But now, as a contractor, it was all on me. And I realized very quickly I didn't have a clue. I didn't understand clawbacks. I honestly didn't even know they existed. I didn't realize that I could be running at full speed and still be running straight into debt. But we're working hard, really hard, like most pharmacies do, dispensing thousands of items every month, staying open late, delivering medicines to patients at home, preparing nomad trays, sometimes spending nearly an hour on a single one of those for a single patient. And yet, we weren't paying ourselves, not a penny, because we didn't understand the game. We thought if we were busy, we must be doing well. But we weren't doing well. We were just busy. And that's when it hit me. Activity doesn't equal profitability. That realization for me changed everything. It forced us to step back, ask better questions, and start running the business like a business, not just a glorified service counter. If you're a pharmacy owner, I want you to pause for a moment and think about your own pharmacy right now. Do you know exactly how much profit you make per item dispensed? Do you know what your average clawback has been over the past 6 months? And finally, do you know how much of your team's time is spent on services that aren't reimbursed at all? Be honest with yourself. If you're not sure, you're not alone. Most pharmacy owners I meet are in the same boat, busy, overwhelmed, focused on keeping the wheels turning, but not really tracking the numbers that matter. And that's the danger because in a business like pharmacy, where margins are tight and the rules change constantly, not knowing your numbers isn't just inefficient, it is risky. It can mean doing more and earning less. It can mean giving more and losing more. It can mean drifting into loss month after month without even realizing it. So, if you're unsure about the answers to those questions, this is your wake up call. It's time to start treating your pharmacy like the business that it truly is because you deserve better than just surviving. Let me tell you what happened to us. Something that, incidentally, I think many contractors will relate to. At the start of this financial year, we decided to get serious about tracking our branch performance. Not monthly anymore, but weekly. We felt we had to get close to the numbers. Like most pharmacies, we started by estimating our NHS revenue using something called the average item value, or AIV for short. AIV is a rough estimate of how much income you make per NHS item dispensed. Most people would calculate it by taking the total NHS income and dividing it by the number of items dispensed that month. If you claim 8,000 items and receive £64,000, your average item value is £8. 64,000 divided by 8,000 per item. It's simple, quick, and gives you a ballpark figure. But here is the catch. It doesn't reflect how the NHS actually pays you. Why? Because your real income is affected by clawbacks, category M adjustments, advance payments, timing lag, and all the little reconciliations and service payments that hit your statement later. So, if you rely heavily on average item value to project income, you might be building your budget on shaky ground. And that's exactly what we found ourselves. We were using a rolling 3 month average item value to forecast weekly income. But because those average item values are always lagging and because they can swing drastically from month to month, we were always behind the curve. After 3 months, we got the NHS statements for the first month of our financial year, and immediately we saw that our estimates were wrong. Our revenue forecast was off, our assumptions didn't hold up, and the average item value method just didn't work. So we pivoted. We decided to dig deeper and adopted a more detailed forecasting model based on the actual NHS payment formula. We accounted for service fees, adjusted for advance payments, factored in clawbacks, and the full thing. We thought, yes, this is it. We've nailed it. Then 3 months later, the clawback rate changed quietly, silently, with no warning. And once again, the numbers didn't match. And that's when it really clicked for us. If you calculate your revenue incorrectly, you'll think you're making money when you're not. And because the NHS payments are always delayed by 2 or 3 months, you'll likely spend that money before it even hits your account. Then the payment comes, it's lower than expected, and suddenly you're already in the red without even realizing it. This is the level of attention pharmacy numbers now demand. It's no longer enough to just track items and services. You need to understand how money actually moves in real time. And if you don't, you'd be working harder than ever, but falling further behind. Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with a few key takeaways that I hope will stick. 1. The NHS contract isn't broken, but it's brutally complex. If you don't understand how it really works, it won't just trip you up. It will quietly bleed your business dry. And I mean that. 2. Activity does not equal profitability. You can be working flat out, dispensing thousands of items, running services, doing everything right, and still be losing money every month. 3. Average item value is a guide, not gospel. It's a useful estimate, but if you're relying on it to forecast income, you might be building your budget on false confidence. 4. Your real income is shaped by forces you can't control. Category M, clawbacks, advance payments, they shift the goalposts constantly. If you're not tracking the right metrics, you're flying blind. 5. Not knowing your numbers is dangerous. You spend what you think you've earned before it ever lands in your account, and by the time reality hits, the damage is already done. But here is the most important point of all. You can still thrive if you go in with your eyes open. Pharmacy is still a business worth building, but only if you treat it like one. That means learning the numbers, owning the strategy, and being willing to ask for help when it matters. Because here is the truth. You didn't come this far to run a business that doesn't pay you. That's why I started this podcast, to share the lessons I wish someone had handed me at the very beginning of my journey. And it's why I created Daughter Consulting, not to sell services, but to help pharmacy owners avoid the costly mistakes that I made. People often see specialist advice as a luxury, but in pharmacy, it is a necessity. Trying to save money by going it alone will cost you more in the long run. This is arguably the best money you'll ever spend because the returns aren't just financial, they're foundational. You will make better decisions, have better systems, and you would have a business that actually works for you, not just for your patients. That's it for today's episode of Behind the Counter. Next time, we'll continue this deep dive into part 2 of the pharmacy numbers game. I'll walk you through the real margin killers hiding in plain sight. Things like free deliveries, unpaid compliance aids, and the wages most owners are still underestimating. We'll break down the true cost of doing the right thing, how to calculate your real cost per script, your cost of goods per item, and your operating profit per service. And more importantly, we'll talk about how to plug those leaks before they sink the business you've worked so hard to build. Because it's one thing to know the numbers, it's another thing to act on them. And those who act are the ones who survive. If this episode gave you a light bulb moment, share it to another pharmacy owner or someone you know who needs to hear it. And if there's something going on in your own business that you're not sure about how to handle, feel free to drop me a DM at _BTC podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, share, or save it to listen later. And make sure to connect with me on social media at _BTC podcast. Thanks again for listening. And remember, the best prescription for success is resilience.